Jai Guruji Maharaj, Shukrana Guruji for giving us another day to breathe and to be in your presence. Shukrana. So, hope everyone is enjoying. I was having a quick chat yesterday with the blessed Italian Sangat of Maharaj, who's also here. And we were talking how, of course, a lot of the material and a lot of the teachings in these books we already know. Maharaj has already blessed it. And I believe we've known it from previous lifetimes if we have to relate it to this book. And it's something that it's embedded in us. But what this book does differently is that it, for me, if I have to share about my own experience and then you can maybe relate it to yours, that still being with Maharaj, I was aware of some things within myself that I didn't understand where I picked them up from. I understood that my ailment, the 6 years, had caused a lot of fear and anxiety and a lot of behaviors and beliefs. But even when Maharaj heals, there were still things that it did not make sense to me. That how come I'm still carrying these with me? And this is why Maharaj blessed me to, he gave the calling. He said, literally before my travel, get this book, read this book. And it's just changed my life. It's a process, of course. And you realize that the fears come from the past lifetime. So a little bit of recap from which we covered from chapter 5 when we read, and a bit of chapter 6 is again recognizing that the past life dreams that are shown, so we have many lifetimes, but those that Maharaj decides to show us are related to a learning here. So that's why he brings those out in your awareness. He shows it, let's say you were a princess, or I don't know, Princess Diana in your previous lifetime. I don't know. Maybe it's not necessary for you to know about that lifetime. Of course it's not. That's why he hasn't shown it to you. The ones that you've picked up fear and hate and resentment and unforgiveness and jealousy and all that stuff, those are important for you to remember. So this is what we talked about last chapter, which the doctor recognized that that's why Catherine is being shown these lifetimes. And the last chapter, chapter 5, spoke about intuition. We got introduced to, the author brought up intuition, and we get basically he talks about these feelings that he's getting, where before his logic had totally blocked those off. He was always in his head, but now we understand from chapter 5 that now he's tapped into his intuition. And so we know this as being in presence of Maharaj. The author talks about, could the patient being in the presence of the masters have a healing effect? And we know, yes, of course, as Maharaj has said himself, that just being with him, he infuses us with his energy, and that alone heals us. The more the traumas and the fears are lifted, the more we can access our spiritual powers. So we are spirit. We have spiritual powers. It's there. We are born with it. It's not that we're born with it. This is us. But when we come into the physical body, we pick up fears and traumas and habits and things like that, and we can't access, it's like the spiritual power is closed. And that's what the doctor talks about, that the more we can get rid of all that rubbish, and again, spoken in Fakir, then we can truly access our true powers. The patient recognizes the teachings while being in that in-between state. So as we go, we have the opportunity to recognize what we did not do in our previous lifetime, which Catherine talks about not having forgotten people. She has that information that she should have forgiven people and not carried that inside of her. Again, Fakir, again, we have to get rid of our vices in order to get closer to God. And it reminds me of Maharaj's saying that human beings have 3 chances to cleanse their karma without the help of anyone. I've heard that from Auntie's satsangs and her book. And now forgive me if I'm not saying this correctly, but I really do feel in my experience, if I had to forgive my father, nobody was there to help me, you know? And it was, in fact, I had to make that decision that I no longer wanted to go forward with this poison within myself, because it was just killing myself. I was in prison. He was living his life the way that Maharaj had chosen his role to be, with the script and everything. He's the producer. He chooses what role people play, but I was not accepting it. So I had to do this myself. And once I decided, then Maharaj was to help. Now, I want to say something that I recognize is that this is just my own intuition. This is what Maharaj told me. This book is for those, I feel, that don't have the guru come to their life, you know? They're not initiated by the Divine Master yet. So I know that once Maharaj comes into our life, we're all taken care of. We really are. We're living in a different dimension. We truly are. So it's not spoken about Sangat, and the masters actually take form, the master, the one who controls things, which we got to know that master in the last chapter. So different dimension, again, that this author has not picked up yet. It wasn't his time to become aware about it or to write about it. So thank you, Maharaj. This just brings you to, just adds more to your gratitude list. That thank you that you have chosen us. Thank you, and taken care of a lot of our karma, and he has, of course, put it on himself. Using your intuitive powers, following them, don't resist it. If you resist, you'll be in danger, of course. Listen to Maharaj's voice, do what he says for you to do. If you don't, obviously you're not going per his plan or will. People are not all created equal, but eventually we will reach a point where we will all be equal. And I remember from a satsang, I heard that Maharaj had told, of course he knew about the pandemic, of course he knew all the hardship that was going to come, but he said it was necessary for humankind. And we see that because, this pandemic has been such awakening opportunity for a lot of people. And it's getting us to a point where we all have to speak in one language of love, and it's written about in the Divine Light that until we all speak in one language, none of us advances, really. We're all one. So we will reach a point where we will all be equal because we don't have any other way. So each lesson is learned one at a time. I'll give my own experience with my father. It was like in phases. I had to learn to forgive first. And then once I forgave, but there was no emotion, there was no love. You know what I mean? Then I had to learn. The next step was to learn how to love unconditionally. So yes, forgave, but the love was not there. It was like, whatever. I've forgiven you. I've accepted your role, but I didn't have any feelings for him. And then Maharaj teaches you to see him not as a father, but as a soul. Then you learn how to love people unconditionally, And then, of course, the next lesson for me, you can also go to your own life, was lesson of sharing knowledge with the same soul, you know? So it just takes you through different steps, one at a time in order. And this book talks about it. People who hurt us, it has nothing to do with us. They have a void within. Again, from Fakir and Anita Kumar sharing, send them love, send them healing. And the best prayer again is, Maharaj, you know what's best for them. You do what you know is best. We have no right to kill people. Only God can punish. I remember myself that something happened to me. I was heartbroken, and this was past March. And I was like, my human side would come up, my ego would come up at days, and I just wanted to be like, God, how could I? I wish I could do something. I wish I could take action against what this person did. And Maharaj would continuously say, no, surrender it, leave it fully on my hands. This is how you trust your guru. If you trust me, you leave it fully on my hands. And I remember suddenly one night in meditation, Maharaj said, I will punish. Don't worry, I know how to punish best. And of course, we don't have a sangat, we don't have this thing that I wish that person hell or, punish in a negative way. As sangat, shukrana to him because of the grace that he gives us and the wisdom. The punishment is that awakening for that person to heal and to recognize the mistakes and things, so how ignorant they are, or so they could move, because again, if they don't move, we can't really move as a whole. So I remember Maharaj said that, and that day I had to recite Autobiography of a Yogi for a Sangat Facebook page, and it was exactly the same thing that Sri Yuktaswar had told Paramahansa Yogananda. Nobody but God can punish perfectly. So leave it all to him. And that was just something I wanted to share. So we'll start with chapter 6. We have shared a bit, but I'm going to read the last part that was so moving and it was so perfect. So I'll read that and then we'll continue. Sip of chai.
Thank you. Beautiful it was.
Thank you. Thank you. I learned about anger and resentment, about harboring your feelings towards people. I also had to learn that I have no control over my life. I want control, but I don't have any. So this is the in-between state when she's hypnotized, and she was talking about her learnings in this lifetime. I must have faith in the masters. They will guide me throughout, but I did not have the faith. I felt like I was doomed from the beginning. I never looked at things very pleasantly. We must have faith. We must have faith. And I doubt. I choose to doubt instead of believe. She paused. What should you do? And I do to make ourselves better. Are our paths the same? Answer came from the master who last week of intuitive powers and of returning from coma. Not coma. The tone, we're all again, Maharaj's words, charity, hope, faith, love. We must all know these things and know them well. It's not just one hope and one faith and one love or one charity. So many things feed into each one of these. There are so many ways to demonstrate them, and yet we've only tapped into a little bit of each one. So it's so beautiful here, right? Because even myself, I was conditioned that charity is only giving money, but charity is giving your time. Charity is giving food. Charity is giving clothes. Charity is petting a dog, just or giving your ear to someone who just wants to share and talk. So many, many ways of giving love. You see an elderly person passing by, they're carrying grocery bags. That's love. That's sort of, helping. So many ways. And they say that as human beings, we've only tapped into a little bit of each one. But people of the religious orders have come closer than any of us have because they've taken these vows of chastity and obedience. They've given up so much without asking for anything in return. The rest of us continue to ask for rewards and justifications for our behavior. When there are no rewards that we want. The reward is in doing, but doing without expecting anything. Wow, Maharaj's words again, and you realize that this is a chosen book by Maharaj because it's written by him. You know, this is all his messages. That it's human beings come to Baramandir or to me as if I've opened the shop, um, and they expect things from me. So beautiful that we should only go to him for love and love of him. Doing unselfishly. I have not learned that, Kathleen added in her soft whisper. For a moment I was confused by the word chastity, but I remembered that the root meant pure, referring to a much different state than that of just sexual abstinence. Not to overindulge, she continued. Anything done to in excess, you will understand. You really do understand. She paused again. I'm trying, I added. Then I decided to focus on Catherine. Perhaps the masters had not yet left. What can I do to best help Catherine to overcome her fears and anxiety and to learn her lessons? Is this the best way, or should I change something or follow up in a specific area? How can I help her the best? The answer came in the deep voice of the poet master, the one who was in control of everything. I leaned forward in my chair. You are doing what is correct, but this is for you, not for her. Once again, the message was that this was for my benefit more than for Catherine. Some new information here, right? That all along we thought that this was all happening for Catherine, where in fact the masters had used Catherine as an instrument to create this awakening for, and of course more, for this doctor. For me, yes, what we say is for you. Not only was he referring to Catherine in the third person, but he said we. There were indeed several master spirits in attendance. Can I know your names? I asked, immediately wincing at the mundane nature of my question. I need guidance. I have so much to know. The answer was a love poem, a poem about my life and my death. The voice was soft and tender, and I felt the loving detachment of a universal spirit. I listened in awe. You will be guided in time. You will be guided in time. When you accomplish what you have been sent here to accomplish, then your life will be ended, but not before then. You have much time ahead of you, much time. I was simultaneously anxious and relieved. I was glad he was not more specific. Catherine was becoming restless. She spoke in a small whisper. I'm falling, trying to find my life, falling. She sighed, and I did too. The masters were gone. I pondered the miraculous message, very personalized messages from very spiritual sources. The implications were overwhelming. The light after death and the life after death, the light after death and the life after death are choosing when we are born and when we will die. The sure and unerring guidance of the masters, lifetimes measured in lessons learned and tasks fulfilled, not in years. Charity, hope, faith, and love, doing without expectation of return. This knowledge was for me. But for what purpose? What was I sent here to accomplish? The dramatic messages and events cascading upon me in the office mirrored deep changes in my personal and family life. The transformation gradually crept into my awareness. For example, I was driving with my son to a college baseball game when we became stuck in a huge traffic jam. I think we can all relate to this. I have always been annoyed by traffic jams, and now we would miss the first inning or two as well. I was aware of not being annoyed. I wasn't projecting the blame on some incompetent driver. My neck and shoulder muscles were relaxed. I didn't take out my irritation on my son, and we were passing the time talking to each other. I became aware of just wanting to spend a happy afternoon with Jordan, watching a game we both enjoy. The goal of the afternoon was to spend time together. If I had become annoyed and angry, the whole outing would have been ruined. I would look at my children and my wife and wonder if we had been together before. Had we chosen to share the trials and tragedies and joys of this life? Were we ageless? I felt a great love and tenderness towards them. I realized that their flaws and faults are minor. These are not really so important. Love is. I even found myself overlooking my own flaws for the same reasons. I didn't need to try to be perfect or in control all the time. That there was really no need to impress anyone. I was very glad that I could share this experience with Carol, his wife. We would often talk after dinner and sort out my feelings and reactions to Catherine's sessions. Carol has an analytical mind and is very well grounded. She knew how driven I was to pursue the experience with Catherine in a careful, scientific manner, and she would play the devil's advocate to help me look at this information objectively. As the critical evidence mounted, mounted that Catherine was indeed revealing great truths, Carol felt and shared my apprehensions and my joys. So that was chapter 6. More messages from masters and realizing that there's many masters actually, and they call themselves we. They in fact say we. I had that experience with my grandmother, as I shared before. Chapter 7. When Kathleen arrived for her next appointment 1 week later, I was ready to play the tape of last week's incredible dialogue. After all, she was providing me with celestial poetry in addition to past life recall. I told her that she had related information from afterlife experiences, even though she had no memory at all of the in-between or spiritual state. She was reluctant to listen, overwhelmingly improved and happier. She had no need to listen to this material. Besides, it was all somehow eerie, like weird. I prevailed upon her to listen. It was wonderful, beautiful, uplifting, and it came through her. I wanted to share it with her. She listened to her soft whisper on the tape for only a few minutes, and then she made me turn it off. She said that it was just too weird and made her uncomfortable. Silently, I remembered, this is for you, not for her. So his intuition kicked in at that time that this is for you, not for her. So what's the point of, having her do something that she doesn't want to do by hearing the recordings? I wondered how long these sessions would continue because she was improving every week. Now only a few ripples remained in her once turbulent pond. She was still afraid of enclosed spaces, and the relationship with Stuart was still literally touch and go. Otherwise, her progress was remarkable. We had not had a traditional psychotherapy session for months. None was necessary. We would chat for a few minutes to catch up on the events of the week and then move quickly to the hypnotic regression. Whether due to the actual memories of major traumas or daily mini traumas, or to the process of reliving the experiences, Catherine was virtually cured. Her phobias and panic attacks had just about disappeared. She had no fear of death or dying. She was no longer afraid of losing control. Psychiatrists are now using high doses of tranquilizer and antidepressant medicines to treat people with Catherine's symptoms. So true. In addition to the medicines, the patients are also often in intense psychotherapy or attending phobia group therapy sessions. Or if Maharaj sees that it's beneficial or it's needed in your journey, you could be someone like me that they just, put you in a mental institution. They lock you up. They come to you maybe for 15 minutes in a day, give you a drug, and they leave. But Shukrana to Guruji for having us go through such things. Who knows? It's meant for he only knows why we go through those. But truly, I'm so happy that he touched upon this, and this was in 1980, and we're talking, my experience was not recent. So same thing, nothing has changed, but Maharaj is changing it. Many psychiatrists believe that symptoms such as Catherine's have a biological basis, but that there are deficiencies in one or several brain chemicals. As I hypnotized Catherine to a deep trance state, I thought about how remarkable and wonderful it was that in a period of weeks, without the use of medicines, traditional therapy, or group therapy, she was nearly cured. This was not just a suppression of symptoms, nor the gritting of teeth and living through it, a life racked by fears. This was a cure, the absence of symptoms, and she was radiant, serene, and happy beyond my wildest hopes. Thank you, Maharaj. Her voice was a soft whisper again. I'm in a building, something with a domed ceiling. The ceiling is blue and gold. There are other people with it. There are other people with me. They're dressed in old, some type of robe, very old and dirty. I don't know how we got there. There are many figures in the room. There are also some pieces standing on some stone structure. There's a large gold figure at one end of the room. He appears. He's very large with wings. He's very evil. It's very hot in the room. Very hot. It's hot because there are no openings into the room. We have to stay away from the village. There's something wrong with us. So she has gone to another lifetime here and explains that in what condition she's in. Are you sick? Yes, we're all sick. I don't know what it is we have, but our skin dies. It becomes very black. I feel very cold. The air is very dry, very stale. We cannot return to the village. We must stay out. Some of the faces are deformed. This disease sounded terrible, like leprosy. If she had once had a glamorous lifetime, we had not yet stumbled across it. How long do you have to stay there? Forever, she answered gloomily. Until we die. There is no cure for this. Do you know the name of the illness? What is it called? No, the skin gets very dry and shrivels up. I have been there for years. There are others who have just arrived. There is no way back. We have been cast out to die. She suffered a wretched existence, living in a cave. We must hunt for our food. I see some type of wild beast that we are hunting for, with horns. He is brown with horns, big horns. Does anybody visit you? No, they cannot go near, or they will suffer from the evil too. We have been cursed for some evil we have done, and this is our punishment. The sands of her theology were constantly shifting in the hourglass of her lives. Only after death, in this spiritual state, was there a welcome and a reassuring constancy. Do you know what year it is? We have lost track of time. We are sick. We just await our death. Is there no hope? I felt the infectious despair. There is no hope. We will all die, and there is much pain in my hands. My whole body is weak. I am old. It is difficult for me to move. What happens when you cannot move anymore? You are moved to another cave, and you're left there to die. What do they do with the dead? They seal the entrance to the cave. Do they ever seal a cave before the person is dead? I was searching for a clue to her fear of enclosed places. I do not know. I have never been there. I'm in the room with other people. It's very hot. I'm against the wall, just lying there. What is the room for? It's for the worship, many gods. It's very hot. I advanced there in life. I see something white. I see something white. Some type of canopy. They're moving somebody. Is it you? I don't know. I will welcome death. My body is in so much pain. Catherine's lips were drawn thin in pain, and she was panting because of the heat in the cave. I took her to the day of her death. She was still panting. Is it hard to breathe? I asked. Yes, so hot in here. Feels feels so hot, very dark. I cannot see, and I cannot move. She was dying, paralyzed and alone, in the hot, dark cave. The mouth of the cave was already sealed shut. She was frightened and miserable. Her breathing grew more rapid and irregular, and she mercifully died, ending this anguished life. I feel very light, like I'm floating. It's very bright here. It's wonderful. Are you in pain? No, she paused, and I waited the masters. Instead, she was whisked away. I'm falling very fast. I'm falling very fast. I'm going back to her body. She seems as surprised as I was. So the experience of going back into a lifetime is falling, but the experience of going back to merging with divine is just floating, and that um, wonderful feeling. I see buildings, buildings with round columns. There are many buildings. We are aside. We are outside. There are trees, olive trees around. It's very beautiful. We're watching something. People have on very funny masks. These these cover their faces. It is some festivities. They're dressed in long robes, and they have masks that cover their faces. They pretend to be what they're not. They are on a platform above where we sit. Are you watching a play? Yes. What do you look like? Look at yourself. I have brown hair. My hair is in a braid. She paused. Her description of herself and the presence of olive trees reminded me of Catherine's Greek-like lifetime 1500 years before Christ, when I was her teacher, Diogenes. That was his name in that lifetime. I decided to investigate. Do you know the date? No. Are there people with you that you know? Yes, my husband is sitting next to me. I do not know him, meaning in her present lifetime. Do you have children? I am with child now. Her choice of words are interesting, somehow ancient and not at all like Catherine's conscious style. Is your father there? I do not see him. You are there somewhere, but not with me. So I was right. We were back 35 centuries. What do I do there? You are just watching, but you teach. You teach. We have learned from you. Squares and circles, funny things. Diogenes, you are there. What else do you know of me? You are old. Somehow we are related. You are my mother's brother. Do you know others of my family? I know your wife and your children. You have sons. Two of them are older than I. My mother has died, and she died very young. Has your father raised you? Yes, but I am married now. You're expecting a baby? Yes, I'm afraid. I do not want to die while the baby is born. Did that happen to your mother? Yes. And you're afraid it will happen to you also? It happens many times. Is this your first child? Yes, I am frightened. I expect it soon. I'm very big. It is uncomfortable for me to move. It is cold. She had moved herself ahead in time. The baby was about to be born. Catherine had never had a baby, and I had not delivered any in the 14 years since my obstetrics rotation in medical school. Obstetrics is just treatments to do with women with children or whom are giving birth. Where are you? I inquired. I'm lying on something stone. It's very cold. I'm having pain. Somebody must help me. Somebody must help me. I told her to breathe deeply. The baby would be born without pain. She was panting and groaning at the same time. Her labor lasted several more agonizing minutes, and then her child was born. She had a daughter. Do you feel better now? Very weak. So much blood. Do you know what you will name her? No, I'm too tired. I want my baby. Your baby is here. A little girl. Yes, my husband is pleased. She was exhausted. I instructed her to take a short nap and to awaken refreshed. After a minute or two, I awakened her from the nap. Do you feel better now? Yes, I see animals. They are carrying something on their backs. They have baskets on them. There are many things in the baskets. Food, some red fruits. Is it a pretty land? Yes, with much food. Do you know the name of the land? What do you call it with what do you call it when a stranger asks you the name of the village? Catania. Catania. It sounds like a Greek town, I prompted. I don't know that. Do you know that? You have been away from the village and I returned. And returned. I have not. This was a twist, since in that lifetime I was her uncle, older and wiser. She was asking me if I knew the answer to my own question. Unfortunately, I did not have access to that information. Have you lived all your life in the village? I asked. Yes, she whispered. But you travel, so you can know what you teach. You travel to learn the land, the different trade routes, so you can put them down and make maps. You are old. You go with the younger people because you understand the charts. You are very wise. Which charts do you mean? Charts of the stars? You you understand the symbols. You can help them to make maps. Do you recognize other people from the village? I do not know them, but I know you. All right. How is our relationship? Very good. You are very kind. I like to just sit next to you. It's very comforting. You have helped us. You have helped my sisters. So how we recognize, who people are and who has helped us, how beautiful. And how amazing that in this lifetime she is her he is her doctor, but in many lifetimes they were related. And it just makes you ponder, like you go see your dentist and you have this like really amazing relationship with them, but they could have been a family member of yours, in a past lifetime, or anyone that you have that feeling with. um there comes a time though that I must leave you, for I am old. So the doctor is saying that there comes a time, though, when I must leave you, for I am old. No, she was not ready to deal with my death. I see some bread, flat bread, very flat and thin. Are people eating the bread? Yes, my father and my husband and I, and other people in the village. What is the occasion? It is some festival. Is your father there? Yes. Is your baby there? Yes. But she's not with me. She's with my sister. Look closely as at your sister, I suggested. looking for that recognition of a significant person in Catherine's current life. Yes, I do not know her. Do you recognize your father? Yes, yes, Edward. Again, the pediatrician who plays the father role again. So, people who are not related in this current lifetime of hers were actual immediate family members of hers as well. There are figs and olives, and red fruit. There's flat bread, and they have killed some sheep. They're roasting the sheep. There was a long pause. I see something white. She had again progressed herself in time. It's a square box. It's where they put people when they die. Did someone die then? Yes, my father. I do not like to look at him. I don't want to see him. Do you have to look? Yes. They will take him away to bury him. I feel very sad. Yes, I know. How many children do you have? The reporter in me was not letting her grieve. I have three, two boys and a girl. After dutifully answering my question, she returned to her grief. They have put his body under some cover. She seemed very sad. Have I died by this time too? No, we're all drinking some grapes in a cup. What do I look like now? You're very, very old. Are you feeling better yet? No. When you'll die, I'll be alone. Have you outlived your children? They will take care of you. But you know so much. She sounded like a little girl. You will get by. You know a lot too. You'll be safe, I reassured her, and she appeared to be resting peacefully. Are you more peaceful? Where are you now? I don't know. She had apparently crossed over into the spiritual state, even though she had not experienced her death in that lifetime. This week, we had gone through 2 lifetimes in considerable detail. I awaited the masters, but Catherine continued to rest. After several more minutes of waiting, I asked if she could talk to the master's spirit. I have not reached that plane, she explained. I cannot speak until I do, until I get to that plane. She never did reach that plane. After much waiting, I brought her out of the trance. So that was chapter 7. We'll continue into chapter 8. Just a break of our chai. Chapter 8. 3 weeks passed before our next session. On my vacation lying on a tropical beach, I had the time and distance to reflect on what had transpired with Catherine. Hypnotic regression to past lives with detailed observations and explanations of objects, processes, and facts, which she had no knowledge of which she had no knowledge of in her normal waking state. Improvement in her symptoms through the regressions, improvement not even remotely achieved by conventional psychotherapy over the first 18 months of treatment. Chillingly accurate revelations from the after-death spiritual state, conveying knowledge she had no access to. Spiritual poetry, and lessons about the dimensions after death, about life and death, birth and rebirth, from master spirits who spoke with a wisdom and in a style well beyond Catherine's capabilities. There was indeed a lot to contemplate. Over the years, I had treated many hundreds, perhaps thousands of psychiatric patients, and they reflected the entire spectrum of emotional disorders. I had directed inpatient units at 4 major medical schools. I had spent years in psychiatric emergency rooms, outpatient clinics, and various other settings, evaluating and treating outpatients. I knew all about the auditory and visual hallucinations and the delusions of schizophrenia. I had treated treated many patients with borderline syndromes and hysterical character disorders, including split or multiple personalities. I had been a career teacher in drug and alcohol abuse, founded by the National Institute of Drug Abuse, NIDA, and I was very familiar with the gamut of drug effects on the brain. Catherine had none of these symptoms or syndromes. What had occurred was not a manifestation of psychiatric illness. She was not psychotic, not out of touch with reality, and she had never suffered from hallucinations, seeing or hearing things not actually there, or delusions, false beliefs. She did not use drugs, and she had no sociopathic traits. She did not have a hysterical personality, and she did not have dissociative tendencies. That is, she was generally aware of what she was doing and thinking, did not function on automatic pilot, and had never had any split or multiple personalities. The material she produced was often beyond her conscious capabilities in both style and content. Some of it was particularly psychic, such as the references to specific events and facts from my own past life. Example, the knowledge about my father and my son, as well as from her own. She had knowledge that she had never had access to or accumulated in her present life. This knowledge, as well as the whole experience, was alien to her culture and upbringing and contrary to many of her beliefs. Catherine is a relatively simple and honest person. She's not a scholar, and she could not have invented the facts, details, historical events, descriptions, and poetry that came through her. As a psychiatrist, a scientist, I was certain that the material originated from some portion of her unconscious mind. I was certain that the material originated from some portion of her unconscious mind. It was real, beyond any doubt. Even if Catherine were a skilled actress, she could not have recreated these happenings. The knowledge was too accurate and too specific, lying beyond her capacity. I pondered the therapeutic purpose of exploring Catherine's past life. Once we had stumbled into this new realm, her improvement was dramatically rapid, without any medicine. There is some powerful curative force in this realm, a force apparently much more effective than conventional therapy or modern medicines. This is where we become so grateful to Maharaj for having us in his sharan, to be initiated by this force, the divine light himself. The force includes remembering and reliving not just momentous traumatic events, but also the daily insult to our bodies, minds, and egos. In my questions as we scan lifetimes, I was looking for the patterns of these insults, patterns such as chronic emotional or physical abuse, poverty and starvation, illness and handicaps, persistent persecution and prejudice, repeated failures, and so on. I also kept an eye out for those more piercing tragedies, such as a traumatic death experience, rape, mass catastrophe, or any other horrifying event that might have left a permanent imprint. The technique was similar to reviewing a childhood in conventional therapy, except that the time frame was several thousand years rather than the usual 10 or 15 years. Therefore, my questions were more direct and more leading than in conventional therapy, but the success of our unorthodox exploration was unquestionable. She, in bracket, and others I later would treat with hypnotic regression, close bracket, was being cured with tremendous rapidity. But were there other explanations for Catherine's past life memories? Could the memories be carried in her genes? This possibility is scientifically remote. Genetic memory requires the unbroken passage of genetic material from generation to generation. Catherine lived all over the earth, and her genetic lines was interrupted repeatedly. She would die in a flood with her offspring, or be childless, or die in her youth. Her genetic pool ended and was not transmitted. And what of her survival after death and the in-between state? There was no body and certainly no genetic material, and yet her memories continued. No, the genetic explanation had to be discarded. So it's beautiful, he's going into explanation of um, um, his view as a psychiatric and the actual facts coming out from these sessions, and then and his and just confirming everything that he's certain of and knows that this is not from based on his experience. This cannot come from a genetics, where a lot of psychiatrists and scientists had said that it was. What about Jung's idea of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of all human memory and experience that could somehow be tapped into? Divergent cultures often contain similar symbols, even in dreams. According to Jung, the collective unconscious was not personally acquired, but inherited somehow in the brain structure. It includes motives and images that spring anew in every culture without relying upon historical tradition or dissemination. I thought Catherine's memories were too specific to be explained by Jung's concept. She did not reveal symptoms and universal images or motives. She related detailed descriptions of specific people and places. Jung's ideas seemed too vague, and there was still the in-between state to consider. All in all, reincarnation made the most sense. Catherine's knowledge was not only detailed and specific, but also beyond her conscious capacity. She knew things that could not be gleaned from a book and then temporarily forgotten. Her knowledge could not have been acquired in her childhood and then similarly suppressed or repressed from consciousness. And what about the masters and their messages? This came through Catherine, but not of Catherine. And their wisdom was also reflected in Catherine's memories of lifetime. I knew that this information and these messages were true. I knew this was not only from many years of careful study of people, their minds and brains and personalities, but I also knew this intuitively, even before the visit from my father and my son. My brain, with its years of careful scientific training, knew this, and my bones also knew. I see pots with some type of oil in them. Despite the 3-week distance, Catherine had quickly lapsed into a deep trance. She was enmeshed in another body, in another time. There are different oils in the pots. It seems to be some type of storehouse or some place where they store things. The pots are red made out of some type of red earth. Made out of some type of red earth. They have blue bands around them, blue bands around the top. I see men there. There are men in the cave. They're moving the jars and the pots around, stacking them up and putting them in certain area. Their heads are shaved. They have no hair on their heads. Their skin is brown skin. Are you there? Yes, I'm sealing up some of the jars with some type of wax. Sealing the top of the jars with the wax. Do you know what the oils are used for? I don't know. You see yourself? Look at yourself. Tell me what you look like. She paused as she observed herself. I have a braid. There's a braid in my hair. I have some type of long material garment on. It has a gold border around the outside. Do you work for these priests or the men with the shaved heads? It is my job to seal the jars with the wax. That's my job. But do you know what the jars are used for? They appear to be used in some religious ritual, but I'm not sure what it is. There's some anointing, something on the heads, something on your heads and your hands. Your hands. I see a bird, a gold bird. That's around my neck. It's flat. It has a flat tail, a very flat tail, and its head is pointing down to my feet. To your feet? Yes, that's the way it must be worn. There's a black sticky substance. I don't know what it is. Where is it? It's in a marble container. They use that too, but I don't know what for. Is there anything in the cave for you to read so that you can tell me the name of the country, the place, where you live, or the date? There's something on the walls. They're empty. I do not know the name. I progress there in time. There's a white jar, some type of white jar. The handle on the top is gold, some type of gold inlay on it. What is in the jar? Some type of ointment. It has something to do with the passage into the other world. Are you the person to be passing now? No, it is not. It is no one I know. Is this your job too? To prepare people for this passage? No, the priest must do that, not me. We just keep them supplied with the incense. About how old do you appear to be now? 16. Are you living with your parents? Yes. A stone house, some type of stone dwelling. It's not very large. It's very hot and dry. The climate is very hot. Go to your house. I'm there. Do you see other people around in your family? I see a brother, and my mother is there, and a baby. Somebody's baby. Is that your baby? No. What is significant now? Go to something significant that explains your symptoms in your current lifetime. We need to understand. It is safe to experience it. Go to the event. She answered in a very soft whisper, everything in time. Everything in time. I see people dying. People dying? Yes. They don't know what it is. An illness? Suddenly it dawned on me that she was again touching on an ancient lifetime, one that she had regressed to previously. In that lifetime, a waterborne plague had killed Catherine's father and one of her brothers. Catherine had also suffered from the illness, but she had not died from it. The people used garlic and other herbs to try to ward off the plague. Catherine had been upset because the dead were not being properly embalmed. So if you remember in that lifetime, there was a healer in town who would give garlic, and he would say that, if you held it, or some herbs, and if you held it in an opening, it would cure you, but people were not cured. And the tradition was that the bodies had to be kept, but because of the disease, they would keep the bodies and bury them. So she was not happy with that. But now we had approached that lifetime from a different angle. Does it have something to do with the water? I asked. They believe so. Many people are dying. I already knew the ending. But you don't die, not from this. No, I do not die. But you get sick, you become ill. Yes, I'm very cold. Very cold. I need water. Water. They think it comes from the water. And something black. Someone dies. Who dies? My father dies, and one brother dies also. My mother is okay. She recovers. She's very weak. They must bury the people. They must bury them, and people are upset because it's against religious practices. What was the practice? I marveled at the consistency of her recall, fact for fact, exactly as she had recounted the lifetime several months ago. Again, this deviation from the normal burial customs greatly upset her. People were put in caves. The bodies were kept in caves, but first the bodies had to be prepared by the priests. They must be wrapped and anointed. They were kept in caves, but the land is flooding. They say the water is bad. Don't drink the water. Is there a way of treating it? Did anything work? They were given herbs, different herbs, odors, the herbs, and smell the odor. I can smell it. Do you recognize the smell? It's white. They hang it from the ceiling. Is it like garlic? It's hung around. The properties are similar, yes. Its properties, you put it in your mouth, your ears, your nose, everywhere. The odor was strong. It was believed to block the evil spirits from entering your body. Purple, fruit, or something round with purple covering, purple skin to it. Do you recognize the culture that you're in? Does it seem familiar? So in her hypnotic state, she talks about so many things that to the reader it doesn't make sense. Like she goes from one topic to another. I don't know. Is a purple a fruit of some sort? Tanis or Tanis. Would that help you? Is that for the illness? It was at that time. Tanis, I repeated, again trying to see if she was talking about what we refer as a tannic acid. Is that what they called it? Tanis? I keep hearing Tanis. What in this lifetime has buried itself in your current lifetime? Why do you keep coming back here? Why is it that is so uncomfortable? What is it that is so uncomfortable? The religion, Catherine quickly whispered. The religion of that time. It was a religion of fear. Fear. There were so many things to fear and so many gods. Do you remember the names of the gods? I see eyes. I see a black, some type of, it looks like a jackal. He is in a statue. He's a guardian of some type. I see a woman, a goddess, with some type of a headpiece on it. Headpiece on. Do you know her name? The goddess? Osiris. Cyrus. Something like that. I see an eye. Just an eye on a chain. It's gold. An eye? Yes. Who is Hather? What? Hather. Who is that? I had never heard of Hather, although I knew that Osiris is the pronunciation. I knew that Osiris, if the pronunciation was accurate, was the brother husband of Isis, a major Egyptian deity. Hather, I later learned, was the Egyptian goddess of love, mirth, and joy. Is it one of the gods? I asked. Hather. There was a long pause. Bird. He's flat like a phoenix. She was silent again. Go ahead in time now to your final day in that lifetime. Go to your final day, but before you have died. Tell me what you see, she answered in a very soft whisper. I see people and buildings. I see sandals. There's a rough cloth, some type of rough cloth. What happens? Go to the time of your dying now. What happens to you? You can see it. I do not see it. I don't see me anymore. Where are you? What do you see? Nothing. Just darkness. I see a light. A warm light. She had already died, already passed over to the spiritual state. Apparently, she did not need to experience her actual death again. Do you come to the light? I asked. I am going. She was resting peacefully, waiting again. So just, I think about 2-3 minutes till we finish the chapter. If that's okay, I'll finish it. And then, so we're done with chapter 8 in that sense. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going. She was resting peacefully, waiting again. I am going. Can you look backward now on the lessons of that lifetime? Are you aware of them yet? No, she whispered. She continued to wait. So again, we become aware that you go, you rest. It's not, they don't want you to just, I guess I don't want to say think, because I don't know if you can think there, but to become aware of your lessons from the previous lifetime, you rest. There's no thinking, there's just joining the light. There's wonderful feeling and calmness, and then you go to the next phase that you learned what lessons you should have or what you should have done in the last lifetime. Can you look backwards now at the lessons of that lifetime? No. She continued to wait. Suddenly she appeared alert, although her eyes remained closed, as they always did when she was in a hypnotic trances. Her head was turning from side to side. What are you seeing now? What's happening? Her voice was loud. I feel someone's talking to me. What do they say? Talking about patience. One must have patience. Oh, yeah, yeah. We are learning so much about patience here. They are talking about patience. One must have patience. Yes, go on. The answer came from the poet master. Patience and timing. Everything comes when it must come. A life cannot be rushed, cannot be worked on a schedule as so many people want it to be. We must accept what comes to us at a given time and not ask for more. But life is endless, so we never die. We were never really born. We just passed through different phases. There is no end. Humans have many dimensions, but time is not as we see time, but rather in lessons that are learned. Amazing, amazing ending to this chapter, right? That with patience and timing, Maharaj's words again, and we see his commandments, we see his words in this book repeatedly, that everything comes when it must come, really is timing, that we cannot rush things, that everything can be, that things will not come on our schedule, but his schedule, his timing, and that we must accept what comes to us at that given time, however it is, in whatever state that we are on, and not ask for more. And I remember a satsang I heard an auntie who went to Guruji and said, Guruji, what's the point? What's the point of all of this? You know, I even thought about it yesterday after reading the previous chapter, like, you think about it, what's the point of this going and coming? Okay, you learn, but then at the end of it, what's the point? And I remember Maharaj saying to an auntie that it's just a journey. It's just a journey. So as Paramahansa Yogananda says, this is God's drama and movie, and it's not ours. So we're just here to play the part that he wants us to play. Humans have many dimensions, and time is not as what we see it and what we've been conditioned, but rather in lessons that are learned. There was a long pause. The poet master continued. Everything will be clear to you in time, but you must have a chance to digest the knowledge that we have given to you already. Catherine was silent. Is there more I should learn? I asked. They're gone, she softly whispered. I don't hear anybody. Beautiful. I'm so glad it ended like that, because it was like, okay, she's talking about her lifetime and we don't really want to know. I mean, fine, it's important for her, but but finally we hear the masters, the important lesson of patience and timing repeatedly and repeatedly. So thank you so much. If anyone wants to just share very, very quickly, please do, and then we'll end it and continue chapter 9 from tomorrow. Okay. Oh, Ekta, please share.
Not sharing actually, but I just wanted to ask you, just said something about Maharaj addressing an auntie, and I missed it because of network issue. You said why we are going through all this karma. So what did Maharaj say in return?
From what I heard, somebody went to Maharaj and said, okay, Maharaj, we come to lifetime, we learn, she went deeper sort of. And I had that inquiry as well, that, okay, we come and we learn, and then, but what's the end of it? As humans, we want to know the end of what's the end of it. And somebody asked the same question to Maharaj, and Maharaj just responded that it's just a journey. It's just a journey. But going back to the book that was recommended by Maharaj, Autobiography of a Yogi, in that book, it's written that this life is not God's, it's not God, it's God's drama. This life is God's play. It's just like a movie that he's produced, he's directing the way that he wants it to go. It's his show. It's not our show. And as humans, we suffer thinking that it's ours. We get attached to the expectations and the images. So it's just a journey, and it's just his movie. These are
Oh, thank you.
what. But if anyone else has heard anything, do share any satsang. But yeah, it's just a journey, just a journey. You know, right now, I'm in a country where I don't speak the language. I don't know a soul. I don't know anyone, but I don't need to know anyone. I know Maharaj, and he's the owner of, he knows everybody, so I know everybody. But he got me to realize that, how we travel, and we come to garner some experiences and learnings, and we're just, but it's him. But going back to this book, we're consciousness, because remember, a conscious part of ours leaves this body. So it's him, and as humans, even myself, we think it's our life, my life. The consciousness, who does it belong to? It belongs to him. It's him. So he's living this life. He is co-creating. He is, expanding this realm, I'm thinking. And he has to experience through us. So just like how I travel here, and I don't, I'm just watching, observing. I'm not attaching. It's like, you already know that this is not my country. This is not where I'm truly from, My home is somewhere else, in physical sense, I should say. You don't care if people are arguing on the street. You don't need to fix anything. You accept everything as it is right now. I'm just talking about my experience just going out of here. I have to wait an hour to get the bus here. Literally, there are no schedules. But you're patient, But how amazing that when I go back home to Toronto, then, it's like, oh, this is my home. I'm trying to say, our home is where he is. That's our home. We come to this body and we become impatient, and I can relate that to my experience of being in Costa Rica now and my home being in Toronto. Does that make sense? Did this make sense? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can relate. If you travel somewhere, you can relate. You're enjoying, you're observing, you're just on observation mode. Like, wow, look at the people. Oh my God. Yesterday I got in a cab. 3 people, I'm sure they were talking about me. Like, I didn't speak the language. They asked me certain things in Spanish. I was like, no español, no Spanish, no español, English. And they were like talking and laughing and talking and laughing. And I didn't care. But if they spoke in English and I understood it, was that going to be different? Of course, as humans, we're like, oh, he's talking about me. But because I didn't understand, it's like music, how interesting that, how much teaching we get, Yes, I will, for sure. But you know what I'm trying to say? Somebody beside you might be
Yes.
gossiping about you, criticizing you. My father, let's say. I'm just going to assume that he's the Spanish guy, and I don't understand his his language, and it's like I listen to music. That's how Maharaj wants us to be. So compared to your own travel, we're only traveling years. We're not this body. My grandma, I think in the previous video yesterday, that for a very long time, actually, when in 2003 Maharaj manifested himself in my grandmother's house, when I saw him, when I had the live darshan of his, so right after, I'm not going to explain I'm not going to go so much into my satsang, but my grandma said that, don't worry, he's always around me. He's always with me. So when Maharaj came into my life, and Maharaj told me that it's now time to tell your mother about what has happened and who has come to your life and how you've healed, instantly, when I sat with my mother, my mom said that my grandma had told her and my eldest auntie that a being used to manifest when my grandma was in physical, and no matter where she went, she went to Mecca 7 times, he would manifest in Mecca, in Iran, everywhere. She lived many places in Tehran, in Iran. Everywhere he would manifest in front of her, of course. Time and space, he's not limited to that. And finally, my grandma decided, this was told to my mom and my aunt, that she prayed that I'm going to talk to this being and I'm going to see if I can help him, because why is he manifesting so much around me? And she went into prayer and namaz, and when she spoke to to Guruji Maharaj, she said, what can I do for you? You know, is there something I can do? Is there a reason that you're manifesting in front of me so much? And he only said one thing: we are here to protect you. In Farsi, in Persian, we are here to protect you. ما اینجاییم که از شما محافظت کنیم. Exact same words that was in Farsi. So when my mom told me that, I was amazed, but for 3 years, I inquired, Maharaj, who's we? Because I only know you, and you are everything. But in this book, I understood. So that's what I shared, that finally in this book, you know, we realize that yes, you know, Maharaj is the ultimate master, but then he has so many different channels and other spirits that are in service to him. And they, you know, some may refer to them as archangels and angels. And but anyway, you know, as Maharaj says, only connect to me and you're connected to all. So how simple he makes it, you know, for us. How simple. How simple. Yeah. So much shukrana. So much shukrana, Maharaj. So much shukrana. Thank you, Guruji, for all your answers. So we'll leave it at that. We'll start chapter 9 tomorrow. Shukrana. Shukrana always to Maharaj, and each of you, thank you so much. Jai Guruji Maharaj.
Thank you, son. Jai Guruji.
Jai
Shukrana.
Guruji. Jai Guruji Maharaj. Thank you, son. Amazing.
Jai
Thank you so
Guruji.
much.
Shukrana,
Jai
mere
Guruji.
Prabhu. Jai Guruji.
Jai Guruji.
Jai
Thank you,
Guruji.
son. Jai Guruji.
Thank you. Thank you.